If I were to ask you guys a question, such as what is the purpose of why you're carrying out a particular work? It could be basically to satisfy your needs or an expectation of wanting to achieve something at the end of carrying out a particular duty. Now, these needs could be categorized into basically three main types. It could be satisfaction of our physical needs, it could be satisfaction of our emotional needs, and most importantly, it could be the satisfaction of our financial needs. Now, most of us, we work and do our activities with the main aim of somehow financially securing us. And that is the sole purpose while we are traveling into territories where we simply are not invited. Now, when we work, the one question that we need to ask ourselves, for which I'm going to take one small theory out of a great scientist named Dr. Edward de Bono, who once asked a very simple question: what is the purpose of purchasing a house? Now, I'll ask this question one more time. What is the purpose of buying a house? Now, here you have to look at the literal purpose of why you want to buy a house. And the literal purpose is shelter, right? The literal purpose is just to have a shelter over your head. But when we are working and trying to secure our financial needs or our basic human needs, are we working only to secure those needs, or do we complicate those simple and basic needs in our life? It could be something like even a 1 BHK house is going to give you shelter. Even a 15 BHK house is also going to give you shelter. But here the distinction that has to happen is the difference between need and want. Now, when most of us, we do a particular work, we often confuse our wants and put it into the category of needs and run for a territory where we really do not need to go to. Now, here is where we often complicate our lives in ways unimaginable. Now, you're with me so far, right? I'll give you something very, very simple distinction of what is our need and what is our want. In philosophy, there is a general consensus that there are only two types of people in this world. One is a wise person. Second, you have an ignorant person. Now, an ignorant is portrayed to be wise to the world, but in reality, he knows that he is a fool. Then you have a wise person who thinks he is wise, but in reality, he is a fool. Now, this is not my definition. This is the definition of ancient philosophy from India to Greece and so on and on and on. Now, this is a very important differentiation, the difference between an ignorant and a wise human being. Now, the same could be said to one of Plato's quotes, who said, we can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. That is completely natural. But the saddening part is when an adult is afraid of light. Now, here we just need to understand something here. When we are in pursuit of something that we think are our basic securities, but in reality it is not, we are not trying to fool anybody, but rather we are just trying to fool ourselves. Now, the most important need, as I said, is our financial needs. But the key word right there is needs and not wants. If you're able to define that crystal clear, then we would be able to achieve something, as they call in philosophy, as harmony in our life from the start of the day all the way to the end of the day. Now, here we need to focus on one small thing. This is not some sort of, open your heart program or something where you can open your mind in 20 days, where we say that you can eliminate desire in 20 days. No, we are not focusing on that here. And that's where the Bhagavad Gita comes into play. Now, desires do exist. And that is why science says that as simple as how it is to get into an habit, it is equally difficult to get out of an habit. And that is why desires will always exist. If somebody is going to come to you and say that I am desireless, then that person is simply lying to your face. In the modern world, in the 21st century, there cannot be a human being without desires. With what they see, with what they feel, and how they are treated in this universe presently, every human being is bound to have some sort of desire, even if it is very tiny as compared to the material world that we are living in. Now, these desires do exist as per the Bhagavad Gita. That is what the Bhagavad Gita says right from the start. Your duty is not to resist these desires, but rather to refrain from falling in the trap of these desires. Desires are designed to trap every human being into reaching the ultimate goal of life. That is something that you or me or any human being for that matter cannot resist. But what we can do is we can refrain when the desire is trying to pull us to a negative path. And that is easier said than done. That is easier said than done, and the Bhagavad Gita acknowledges that. But what we need to realize is it is a step-by-step process. And once we are continuously practicing it for a considerable period of time, the changes that we see within will be something unbelievable. As Krishna says, every day counts, every step is a progress. The only question is, are we progressing in the right direction? Now that's the point of this whole video. That is to make you think, what is the difference between need and want? And on which category do you put your purposes into? In the bracket of the needs or in the bracket of wants? If you're able to clearly define that, then there'd be harmony throughout our lives. And the first step in order to do that is just to free our mind, and it will always lead the way. And that's a wrap for this particular episode. And as always, thank you for watching. And until the next episode, it is goodbye.